All G20 member states have unanimously adopted the summit declaration. This comes despite the US requesting South Africa not to adopt a declaration at the summit. Well, this is a moment captured where the G20 Sherpa can be seen applauding after the adoption of the declaration.
The threats facing humanity today, from escalating geopolitical tensions, global warming, pandemics, energy and food insecurity, to inequality, unemployment, extreme poverty, and armed conflict, jeopardize our collective future.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who hosted the summit, emphasized that the delegates showed strong agreement right from the start to adopt the declaration. He also expressed gratitude to all nations for working together in good faith to produce a meaningful outcome. With the US presidency due to take over the G20 leadership next year, the baton was passed symbolically to what President Ramaphosa described as an empty chair. The adopted declaration shows the G20's strong commitment to working together through multilateral cooperation. The leaders pledged to support efforts for lasting and fair peace in the conflicted regions. This included just lasting peace in Ukraine, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, occupied Palestinian territory. The declaration calls for ending hostilities, supporting humanitarian aid, and pursuing political solutions while respecting international agreements and United Nations principles. The declaration also calls for responsible governance of artificial intelligence and digital inclusion. The leaders pledged to strengthen global health security, supporting vulnerable countries in disaster recovery and food security. South African President warmly welcomed the Prime Minister of India in Johannesburg with the traditional Indian gesture of Namaste. The welcome took place at the Johannesburg Expo Center. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the opening session of the summit and called for changes in global development models. He presented three key initiatives. First, he proposed creating a global repository to preserve traditional knowledge about sustainable living. He said that India has a rich history in this regard. Second, he introduced a G20 Africa Skills Multiplier program that aims to train 1 million instructors across Africa in the next decade. Lastly, he urged the group to unite and strengthen efforts against the drug terror nexus, with a special focus on combating the spread of synthetic drugs like fentanyl. During the summit, Prime Minister Keir Starmer outlined a 5-point plan to boost global economic growth. He called on leaders to focus on key areas such as lowering tariffs and addressing debt challenges. Starmer also sharply criticized Russia for its ongoing war in Ukraine.
Fragility in the Middle East, rising threats of authoritarianism and fragmentation, as well as Russia's ongoing unjustified war in Ukraine. The shockwaves of that invasion are still reverberating through global markets today. It has hit growth, driven up food and energy prices, and deepened persistent imbalances and instability across the world.
The summit is taking place without the participation of the US. Trump is boycotting the event over claims about South Africa's treatment of its white minority. The G20 was founded in 1999 by the US to help rich and poor nations work together on financial crises. It covers most of the world's economy, trade and population, but requires consensus to act. Professor Scott Lucas is Professor of International Politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin, is now joining us from Ireland. Professor Lucas, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for your time. The declaration used the kind of language long disliked by the Trump administration, stressing the seriousness of climate change and the need to better adapt to it, praising ambitious targets to boost renewable energy, and noting the punishing levels of debt service suffered by poor countries. First of all, what do you make of the unanimous document, and what's the message here?
I mean, I think in a general sense, there's two striking points here. The first here is that the Trump administration has effectively isolated the United States by choosing not to attend the session. They, in effect, didn't exert U.S. influence, quite the opposite. They took the U.S. off the stage. And then secondly, linked to that is just and again, in a general sense, the ability to reach a consensus, at least on the need to do something about these critical issues, climate change, global health issues, issues of economic inequality, issues about the global drug crisis, and that you could get this consensus because the Americans weren't there objecting. I think it's a striking depiction of how the global order is not U.S. led. Indeed, the global order actually may come into effect when the Americans retreat. But beyond that, I do think we need to emphasize that we're still talking about the need to see concrete action on these general initiatives that have been put forward, whether it be the Starmer 5 points on growth, whether it be
We seem to have lost Mr. Scott Lucas. We'll catch up with him later, but he was trying to give us his insights on the ongoing G20 summit.